SocialSecurityNews.com.
Last year marked the 80th anniversary of Social Security. While Jim Jarosik wasn't there all that time, he was there for nearly 40 years, and he had a front row seat to the changes that were made over the years. And he's here to tell us a few tales. Jim is a retired field representative from the downtown Cleveland Office of Social Security. You know a lot about the history of the retirement program. Can you give us just a refresher course on how everything came to be?
The original Social Security Act was signed into law by President Franklin D. Roosevelt on August 14th of 1935. It was part of what was called New Deal legislation, and it was meant to help bring the country out of the Great Depression that we were in at the time, and to help prevent any such thing from happening again. The initial basic intent was to partially replace income that was lost due to the retirement of the worker.
Okay.
And it was a retirement program only for the retired worker himself, only at age 65.
But it soon expanded to cover more than just the retirees, correct?
Yes, it did. The program grew and expanded through a series of amendments. It wasn't long before Congress recognized that when the worker retires, it's not just he, but also his family, who has lost their source of income and support. So they added in what's called auxiliary benefits, benefits payable to the spouses and children of the retired worker. Then in 1939 came survivor benefits for the widows and children of deceased workers.
Mm-hmm.
Then the third major benefit category came on in 1956, disability benefits. Well, at that time, there were a number of people with long-term, severe, debilitating conditions that became eligible for the new benefits. But they were home confined, and they weren't able to come into offices to file for the benefits. The field unit was suddenly deluged with requests for home visits. My forerunners as field representatives in the Cleveland Downtown District remember this as the toughest time in their careers. One of them described it as going out there day after day after day, going from house to house to house, seeing people that were dying right before your eyes. Well, they'd come home from work after another such day, and their wives would tell them that they had to quit the job. They didn't. If they would have, there wouldn't have been anyone to go out and take the claims from these severely ill, homebound people.
Sure.
The field reps really were the elite Green Berets of the agency. And I'm not talking about myself. I was a field representative. But I'm talking about the guys that were the veteran old-timers when I first came out of college and went into claims representative training class.
And when you started, there were some problems dealing with proving how old you were.
Yes, so for example, the 1961 amendments brought early reduced benefits at age 62. So someone who was turning 62 in 1962 was born in 1900. That made a proof of age problem because back then there were a number of states that still didn't keep birth records. U.S. Census records were a commonly used form of evidence of age at that time. Well, out of training class, I went to work in the Akron office. That was then at Broadway and Exchange. And one day I interviewed a claimant and I gave him a census request form with instructions to fill it out and submit it. After he left, my claims stenographer sitting behind me said, "Jim, I don't think he's going to be able to complete that by himself." I went out, saw him going up the street. I chased him 2 or 3 blocks up Broadway, brought him back, sat him back down at the desk, and I filled out the form. And he was very grateful and relieved. My steno knew better than I did.
She was the pro.
Right. She knew better. She had it right. She knew better than her claims rep, young claims rep partner who was just out of class.
I wish we had more time for stories, but We have talked about Social Security many times on Golden Opportunities. It's great to hear from someone who was a part of making it work for individuals on a day-to-day basis. My thanks to Jim for sharing stories and history with us today. And if you need help with Social Security, use the information that's coming up next. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
To learn more about the Social Security Administration, call 800-772-1213 or log on to www.ssa.gov. Next.